Welcome to Season 3 of Coming Home to Ourselves, where we aim to bridge the gap between the sacred and modern day responsibilities, complex chronic illness, and life. I am your host, Denise Elysa, practitioner and teacher, and I aim to empower you to become your own self-healer and an embodied co-creator. I am not a medical professional, and nothing said in this podcast should be misconstrued as medical advice or replacement of such. To learn more about my philosophies or practices, visit deniseelysa.com. Hi, friends. I'm so excited to introduce you to Jillian Rothschild Scholar, founder of Feng Shui in Motion. So Jillian is a master of Feng Shui with over 15 years of experience and a red ribbon professional with the International Feng Shui Guild since 2010. She helps ambitious individuals find clarity and confidence through classical Chinese divination systems, including Feng Shui, Bazi, Qi Men, and the Yi Jing. Jillian translates ancient wisdom into practical solutions for modern life, working with clients worldwide from her base in Phoenix, Arizona. And today she's here to talk to us about something that I know has been on a lot of people's radars recently, which is the year of the fire horse. Jillian, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk with you.
What makes 2026 or the year of the horse particularly significant in Chinese astrology?
Every year has its own energy signature, and 2026 is a young fire horse year, beginning February 4th on the solar calendar. The other date that you see is a lunar calendar date, which is February 17th in 2026. So this particular fire horse year only comes around once every 60 years. The last one was 1966. So this particular year is going to be about passion, fast, forward-moving energy that is quite dynamic, transformative energy. Think of like a wild horse running through the flames. Like there's real power here, but it needs to be channeled really wisely. And it sounds dramatic because it is. This is not a year for playing it safe. This is a year for bold moves. So if you've been thinking about something that you want to do and you haven't pulled the trigger yet, this is a good year to do that. This year really favors decisive action, innovation, transformation. But the key is to really harness it effectively. And that way you can understand where it's flowing and how to leverage the energy to your advantage. That's how you do Feng Shui really well. In Chinese metaphysics, we base everything on concepts like qi, which is universal energy force, yin and yang, which addresses things that are light and dark, hot and cold, feminine, masculine, etc. And something called the 5 elements. The 5 elements are what make up everything in the universe. So water, wood, fire, earth, and metal are the 5 elements. It's not limited to just what can be seen in the sky. And those 5 elements, since it makes up everything in the universe, have very specific interactions, how they work with each other or don't work with each other, give us a lot of information about behaviors and choices and a long list of attributes. If that answers the question.
I got the impression from our quick dialogue earlier that how this actually shows up in somebody's life is really dependent on their individual chart. So you had mentioned that with it being the year of the horse, like it might impact horse year people a little bit differently. And then I know that you mentioned a couple of other like rat, ox, and rooster.
Yes. And it also depends on the lens that you're looking at. So we can talk about it from a Batsa, which is the 4 pillars of destiny, Chinese astrology lens. We can also look at it from the Feng Shui lens. They're 2 different lenses. However, there is some intersection between the 2. So if we're only looking at the Batsa perspective, the 4 pillars of destiny, then yeah, depending on the animal signs that are in your chart and the mix of the 5 elements that are in your chart will determine how this year is going to go for you. Anybody who's listening will look back on their life, at least one period in their life, maybe just one year, that just was a disaster all over. And if you've not experienced one of those years, good for you. There might be one coming. Well, when you have a horse, when it's the animal year is the horse, we'll just use this year. And then you go, oh, I have a horse in my chart, or I was born in the year of the horse. You're like, oh, it must be my lucky year. And people have this sort of myth that becomes lucky for them. But in reality, it becomes like a mirroring effect. So it shows you how far you've come, how much more you have to go. And it does require you to slow down a little bit and take stock. Because if you don't take stock of what your goals are and make a path forward, then you're going to end up in a situation where you're smacking your forehead going, oh God, if I only stopped, or if I only knew, or if, and then you're kind of having a smack your head moment, wondering why you didn't do it differently. And so it does, I think, require a little bit of proactive willingness to instigate the change instead of being at the effect of the change.
Yeah, I hear you. That shows up in my work as well quite significantly, is like when our bodies or our life circumstances start to give us those cues that like, hey, change needs to come, or you need to slow down, you need to take a rest, you need to leave that relationship, you need to move, you need to change your environment, like all these different things start to show up through cues in our lives, either through like our interpersonal relationships or through what's being mirrored back to us, through like accidents or things that like appear to be kind of fluke, through our bodies really starting to act out and like get louder and louder through symptomology and illness and things like that. And if we can start to pick up on those things as they're happening, we can make the conscious choice, right? We can be an active, conscious co-creator of our lives, make that choice to make the change, and not have to go down that same road where those cues just get louder and louder and louder.
Sometimes all you get are the nachos. That's what my teacher said. She was great. And the nachos are your door, your bed, your desk, your stove, your water features like a pool or like if you have a creek or a pond nearby your house, the roads, like some things you can control and some things you can't. And so this is why every year we also look at the Feng Shui. In my world, everything is about timing and alignment. So timing is one component, and Batsa gives us a lot of information about timing. But also there's the energetic alignment component of your environment. If you want to feel a sense of empowerment, you want to feel a sense of well-being, you want to feel prosperous and energetic and vibrant, then you should consider the significance of your environment.
Yeah. And so how does the year of the horse intersect with your work of Feng Shui? And how can, like, not only me as a horse year person, but for our listeners who may not be the year of the horse, how can we align our spaces to really support that energetic flow?
Good questions. I want to give you one foundational background component to this, and then I will definitely answer. The foundational background component is there's something called the 3 lucks. There's what's called heaven luck, human luck, and earth luck. So we have 3 of these. Heaven luck is what is fated. It's what you're born with. You cannot crawl back in your mother's womb and be born at a different time. This is just what you get. It's like the family that you're born into, the environment that you start your life in, those kinds of circumstances, that's fated. Earth luck is your Feng Shui. So it's your environment, the place that you live, the city that you live, the kind of house you keep, how you're aligning with things energetically in your space. And then human luck is your free will. So it's your choices, how you make decisions, when you make them. That's human luck. When we're talking about Feng Shui, we're talking about earth luck. And Feng Shui literally, when it's translated from Chinese, means wind and water. And it's the representation of the flow of natural forces. The historical poem is something like, it translates to something like, Qi rides on the wind and it stops at the boundary of water. And so there's this core idea that Feng Shui is this art and science of arranging and aligning yourself in your living environment or your working space to create harmony within the environment. So it's really about harnessing the Qi to support your goals. It's not about interior decorating. It's certainly not magic, or it's definitely not a religion. Like, I'm a nice Jewish girl from Ohio. It's a framework for understanding how your environment affects you. So when we look at the Feng Shui for the year, one of the key systems that we look at is something called flying stars. And this particular system helps us understand where the energies are visiting in your space in each sector and how to work with them or avoid them. And the energy changes every year. So it's sort of like your favorite restaurant menu. You either have to adapt or suffer. Does that answer that question for you?
Yeah, so that answers like what those pillars are. And so can you give us like some tips, that like some actionable tips about like how we would take advantage of the Feng Shui in our home to really like maximize our flow throughout the year of the horse?
Absolutely. So in the flying stars system, and the reason that we pay attention to the system, by the way, is that we're in our spaces all the time. And if you think of your space as like a chessboard, every position matters. So this is very important for business owners, by the way, because if you're in an office space, you're spending 40 plus hours a week with your employees. That's over 2,000 hours a year in whatever energy field you're in. And that does make a difference. And so this isn't like new age thinking. This is systems that have been used by Chinese emperors, and it's still used by Fortune 500 companies worldwide. And so it's good enough for the Forbidden City, and to run $1 billion company, it's worth, it's worth taking a look at in our own lives. So there are these 9 flying stars. And when we say fly, we mean they move around in a very predictable pattern. And these stars give us information about how the energy is going to behave. So it's sort of like house guests. Some of them you're really excited to see. Some of them you sort of tolerate, and some of them you just want to hide from. Like you kind of want to know when your mother-in-law is coming because you want to know where she's going to be staying and if you should avoid her and all the stuff, right? So we think about these flying stars like house guests. And the power players, the ones that you want to be involved with, are stars 9, 8, and 1. So star number 9 is the priority star for wealth and recognition. It's like your vibrant VIP guest. Star 8 is your steady prosperity star. It's like the reliable friend that brings you wine. They're always there for you. And star 1 is like your future wealth star. It also brings helpful people. So it's like a good connection star. So those are the 3 that are the power players. We also have challenging stars, and these are the ones that you want to handle with care. So star 5 is known as the misfortune star. Sometimes it's called the 5 yellow. And this is the do not disturb star. This is the star that should actually be cured or remedied. It needs some mitigation because this is your chaotic relative. It's sort of like the ones that you want to keep in a guest room and you don't want to engage with them. You really kind of want to avoid them. There are 2 other stars that are potentially challenging. Star 7 and star 3. I sort of group them together because they can bring gossip and conflict and legal issues if they're triggered negatively. And so they're sort of like annoying drama magnets that we don't want to necessarily engage with. And we have some supportive stars that are sort of useful for specific things. Star 2, star 4, and star 6 are the ones that I call supportive stars. They're great for property acquisition, creativity, career advancement. These are like your project-specific helpers. So when we know which ones they are, we know where they're visiting, how to deal with them. So for example, this misfortune star that I mentioned, star 5, is visiting in the south sector this year. And that's very important because sometimes just avoiding negative energy can make a huge difference. So if you have a door or something important in the south sector of your home, it would be a good idea to mitigate that. And you can do that pretty easily with a salt cure. It's just salt and water and 5 pennies and a dime, and you stick it in that sector. Don't use it. Don't be involved in that sector. My own front door happens to be in my south sector. It's closed for the year. It's taped off. We're not opening the door. It's just going to stay closed.
Our
and quiet.
main living room is in the south sector of our home. And it's interesting because just in the last like 2 weeks, I've all of a sudden been finding myself not spending time in there, like just naturally. And like, I didn't have like a rhyme or reason. I mean, I had all sorts of stories in my head for why this was, but there was no clear.
No, star 5. It's star 5. Just stick a salt cure in there.
So you stick a salt cure in there, which is, you said salt water and 5 pennies.
Yeah, it needs to also be proportional to your house. So you cannot use a pickle jar of, I mean, if your house is more than 1,500 square feet, you cannot use a pickle jar of salt water. That's not going to work. It needs to be proportional to
Okay.
the size of your house.
And you leave it in that space, and then can you still use the space, or you just like avoid that space still?
I mean, the answer is the answer is always it depends, which people don't like. The answer is it depends. Is it your kitchen? Do you have no other place you can cook? Then of course
Yeah.
you're going to cook in your kitchen. Is it your only accessible door? Then of course you're going to use that door, right? Is it in your bedroom? Do you, although inconvenient, have another room you could sleep in? And this would be particularly beneficial if somebody is really ill, or if you are dealing with a major issue. Maybe you're already dealing with a legal issue. Maybe you're dealing with financial issues. Maybe there's a health issue going on. Sometimes you just have to avoid it if you can.
Okay.
And particularly in the South, you definitely don't want to do any repairs, renovation, banging, digging the ground, anything like that. That's a big no-no for star 5. Because it's a very misbehaving star, and it's a misfortune star because it affects health, wealth, and relationships. And it's kind of disastrous.
Okay. And
it's not
what
friendly.
were those other stars that you said were like really problematic?
Problematic. So stars 7 and 3 are stars that can bring gossip, conflict, and legal issues. So star 7 this year is in the southwest sector, and star 3 is in the west sector. Star 3 does have some benefits. I mean, this is where it gets a little bit muddy because no one thing is forever good or bad. We definitely don't like star 5 in the South. It's not a pretty sight. But particularly star 3 can have some beneficial benefits, although for the most part, it usually triggers arguments and gossip.
And that was in Southwest.
No, west is star 3. Southwest is star 7.
Okay. And what did star 7 bring?
Star 7 is sometimes called a robbery star. And usually that kind of thing starts with a conflict, some type of argument, which goes into like a legal situation. But I have also seen, as a Feng Shui practitioner, people literally get robbed from that sector of their house. I have a colleague, I'm not going to say who it is, parks his car outside of his house. I don't know why he left his passport and wallet in his car, but the year that star 7 was on his driveway, his car got broken into and everything was stolen. And I'm just like, why would you do that?
Wow.
Yeah. So think those kinds of things literally can happen. And so this is why we want to pay attention so that we can make sure that our valuables are secure. But we also have to think about it in modern terms. It's not just, do I have a safe where all my jewelry is locked up, but do I have good, secure passwords? Am I using pass keys? Am I updating those kinds of things regularly? Do I have copyrights? Am I protecting my intellectual property? We have to think beyond like, oh, my wallet is going to get stolen out of my purse. We have to start thinking about what this means.
So if your office, for example, was in like your southwest corner of your house right now, or of your space, you would be really starting to look at your technology and your passwords and like the types of securities that you have in place there.
Right.
I've heard the year of the fire horse being described as having double fire energy. So what does that mean? And like, how does that present in our actual day-to-day?
This is a good question. So when we talk about a fire horse, there's two components. There's the fire element and then the animal sign itself. Because the element itself of fire has yin and yang polarity. Last year we were in a snake year, which was yin polarity. Now we're on a horse year, which is yang polarity. And the horse itself, the animal branch of the animal sign of the horse, is also fire element. So it's like extra fire energy, kind of like the sun at its zenith in the sky, when the sun is the most glorious and expansive and it illuminates everything. And the horse underneath it is all of this fire-based forward momentum that is fueled by and fueling more fire. So the bottom line is this horse is not whispering. It's announcing. It's not walking, it's galloping. It's sort of like the Beyonce of zodiac years. It's loud and powerful and it's here to make things happen. It's like, really, you cannot miss it, right? So sometimes this is called a year of double brightness. This is extreme yang energy. We're talking about brilliant ideas happening, sudden breakthroughs, rapid technological advancement, a collective desire for dramatic progress, high visibility, lots of charismatic leadership. This kind of energy with so much fire can be creative and it can also be destructive. And this is why we look at this energy so that we know how much of a, how balanced or how imbalanced that energy is so that we can work with it. Does that make sense?
I keep hearing it described as like ready or not, you're galloping, and like if you don't get on the horse and make that conscious choice and take the action steps required to get on the horse and go with it, then you're just like being dragged behind it. Like if you picture a galloping horse, you're on fire. You're just being like dragged along behind it. And the other way that I've heard it described is actually quite the opposite of that. Maybe not opposite, but basically like the horse is running. If you don't choose to get on it, it's just going to pass you by.
There are going to be things like that where things are going to need to be, decisions are going to need to be made quickly, that you're going to have to pivot quickly in order to keep up. That's going to be true for some situations and some people. And the thing that I want us to keep in mind is that when we look at the year chart, the Chinese astrology chart for the year, there's no water element. This is the crucially missing element of the year. Water element is the element that controls fire. So there's no checks and balances happening this year. So we need to know this going in because that has health implications. It has economic implications. From a health perspective, no water element means there is a clear imbalance. So with this double fire energy, we need to prioritize rest. We need to hydrate. We need to manage stress. All that's going to be crucial. I mean, this sounds like groundbreaking advice, right? Like drink more water, get more quality sleep. Don't check your email after 9 o'clock at night. Be asleep by 11 o'clock. It's groundbreaking advice, right? But really, from a health perspective, we're talking about our head, our shoulders, our small intestine, heart, blood, eyes, circulation. So we're talking about having things in balance because, we need to take care of our heart, both literally and figuratively. That's just the health aspect of it. We also need to understand that water element brings calm and common sense and wisdom. So without those factors in the year, we have to consciously bring them. When things are going really fast, we may need to let that horse run by. It's okay. There'll be another one. It's okay. From an economic perspective, the sectors that are going to do really, really well this year are things like tech and AI. I mean, that's not really rocket science either. All we have to do is look back at 1966 for clues because the years run on a 60-year cycle. So we can look back at 1966 and see how much innovation there was. Things like energy systems and industries, entertainment industry, beauty industries, they're all going to do well. So depending on what your business is, you can align with those industries, sort of piggyback on them, if you will. So if you're in one of those fields, that's great. If you're in a financial field, I'm telling all my clients that, and also this is not rocket science either. Like if you're paying attention, we're expecting a correction. And so I think it's very prudent to have a solid risk management strategy in place so that you can be aware of what's coming. The year is going to be about bold action, but we do also need to temper that boldness with wisdom. Without this water element, there's no natural break on the momentum. So it's, go big, but also have a backup plan. I'm also a little bit risk adverse. I'm just naturally risk adverse. That's just part of my nature.
And I'm just reflecting back on one piece that you shared, which was we have to like really intentionally bring the calm back into our lives. And what that reflected back to me is a lot of what I have been sharing sort of like online recently and in one-on-one client sessions is that I don't do the work that I do because my life is like calm and peaceful and easy and serene and like we have no conflict and parenting super easy and things like that. I do the work that I do because my life is chaos a lot of the time and I need the work that I do, right? Because my parenting journey has not been easy. We are a neurodivergent household. Like there's a lot of complex needs within my immediate space, and then living with complex chronic illness, and then living in the society that we live in today, which is like so fast paced and so comparative and so performative, really disconnected, makes it really difficult to stay centered and to stay in that truth of who you are and anchored into your body. And so I think that often when people are viewing things, say like online, or they hear about somebody who's an energy healer or a meditation teacher or a somatic practitioner, any of these things, which I am, they picture something that is very different than like our reality, because the picture is like this calmness and this serene, calibrated life. And often it is because I've done the work to get there, but I had to really do the work to get there. And the reason that I do this work is not because it was always a natural part of my life. It's because I had to work so hard to weave it in to a life that really often felt like I wasn't going to survive it. Right. And so that's what gets reflected back to me when you share that this year in particular, we are going to have to really consciously make that a part of our lives.
And what that can look like are things like boundaries. I'm not going to take on an extra project because I know that's going to keep me up or it's going to be extra stressful. What, you want me to do more work? I need you to tell me what the priority is so that I can prioritize my time, because I'm not going to be able to do everything. I'm going to make an effort to not burn out. So I'm going to plan my vacation. I'm going to use this as my permission to rest.
And in our personal lives, I think it shows up in very similar ways. Like, I am not available for this conversation. I am not available to explain myself to you when you continually...
Nor do you have to.
But that's what a lot of my guests are learning, right? Like that they don't have to explain themselves or validate themselves. That they are valid exactly as they are, and that it doesn't need an explanation, right? And that they don't have to make themselves available to every family drama or neighbor drama or person who needs help, who, we want to help them and don't always have the capacity to do so. A lot of the people that I work with are people who have stretched themselves beyond their capacity for so long that they have developed severe complex chronic diseases. And so exactly. So now we're like working our way backwards and unlearning a lot of those things to rewire the nervous system so that they can come back to a place of health. So knowing that this year in particular is going to require so much more conscious awareness and effort of that is really good data for me and for my guests. Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Oh,
yes. And when you have good physical alignment in your environment, it's very helpful.
You had mentioned that there's a clash happening between the horse and the rat. What is that about?
Yeah. So the word clash sounds really bad. People think that it means something really negative. And it doesn't have to be negative. Typically, a clash will trigger a change. The technical answer is that if you look at the 12 animals of the Chinese Zodiac on a circle, they all have like a clock position. The horse is at 12 o'clock and the rat is at 6 o'clock. So they're direct opposites, north and south, literally fire and water. And those don't really interact very well in general because water puts out fire. So they're in a clash position. And simply what that means is there's going to be a change. If you have a rat anywhere in your chart, whether it's the year, the month, the day, or the hour, could also be in your luck pillar, but typically we're talking about the 4 pillars, year, month, day, and hour. There's probably going to be a change. And all of those 4 areas, the year, month, day, and hour, have different attributes. It could be your social network, it could be your career, it could be your spouse, it could be your children, it could be your fans, your employees, and that long list goes on of different attributes. And typically that location of the rat in the chart gives us an indicator of what would change. So if you were born in December, for example, which is most of the rat month, there's a good chance there may be a shift in your career. It does not have to necessarily be bad. Let's just be clear about this. Getting a new boss could be a really good thing.
Change doesn't always mean that it's a bad thing. Yeah.
Change doesn't have to be bad. Maybe you're going to get a new job. Maybe you're going to have an opportunity to travel. One of the components of the trash when I say clash, when I say change, it doesn't have to be change job, change house, change relationship. It could be movement. So my husband was born in the year of the rat. That man already has 5 trips planned this year. I'm just letting him go because he needs to travel. And somebody might be listening to this going, well, I can't travel. I don't have money. I don't have the resources. I just can't. Please go take a walk. Please go move your body. Do some bilateral movement. Dance, walk, move, just get the energy out. Just doing that can be enough to satisfy a component of the clash. But if you have a clash in your chart, then expect the unexpected. Be prepared. And know that.
So this is not necessarily between a person who's a horse and a person who's a rat, but actually between your inner self, like when you have a horse and a rat in your chart together somewhere.
That can be one component of it. It could be I was born in a horse year and a rat month. That's like an inner struggle. That's often like an inner, I want this, I want to do that. I want to, like, back and forth, back and forth. If it's between 2 people, it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes opposites attract. Sometimes there's other components in a chart that make someone attractive or needy or with you for some reason.
So we've talked a lot about like how challenging this year could potentially be, but there must be opportunities within this too. So what would you say about like the energetic opportunities that are likely to present themselves or could present themselves in a year like this?
So if you have a horse in your chart, I encourage you to make friends with a goat person because the goat is the secret friend of the horse. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so you want to connect with people who can offer you support and harmony because they're the friend.
And so I just have to walk around asking people if they are a goat. Will you be my goat friend?
Are you born in the year of the goat? Can we be my friend? Can I borrow some of your luck? That'd be really great. And if you have a goat in your chart already, contact Denise. She wants to be your friend.
I would love to be friends with you for the year.
Want to be friends. But what that means is, like, if they already are born in the year of the goat or have a goat somewhere in their chart, then they're already harmonious with the year. So they're generally going to do really well this year. Then they can chill out a little bit. They can enjoy the year a little bit more. The other relationship, which is very beneficial for business people, which I always want to talk about, is something called the 3 Harmonies Alliance. So the 3 Harmonies are the tiger, the horse, and the dog. And this is really helpful because this is sort of like a operational blueprint, especially if you're in business, because the tiger brings vision, the bold idea, and the courage to start. The horse brings action, the relentless drive, and the momentum. And the dog brings structure, the systems, and the loyalty to make things last. So when you have all 3 working together, you create something that's far greater than the sum of the parts. It's like having a complete Avengers team instead of just Iron Man trying to do everything himself. So if you are thinking about a goal for 2026, ask yourself, do I have all 3 elements? And if you're missing one, partner with somebody who has that energy. So if you need a vision, if you're not sure what the bigger picture looks like, find a tiger person. They're going to have 12 amazing ideas before breakfast. If you need momentum, find a horse.
The way you just described the horse, I was like, oh yeah, that speaks to my whole life.
Yeah, and you're going to have things like halfway done before I'm even done explaining. You're like, yeah, I totally got this. You're already on it. It's sort of like you've got an idea on Tuesday and by Friday it's already done. Like that's how quick things are. Yeah.
Right.
There's a shadow side to the horse, right? The forward moving, but the shadow side is impatient, very impatient. Also, not so good for a 9-to-5 job sometimes. Hard to get to work. Bless her heart. I worked with a woman in corporate America for a long time. She was horse year. I think she was born on a horse month. that woman could not get to work on time if we couldn't pay her enough to get to work on time. She just couldn't, it was just not her jam. And so, yeah, there's always going to be a shadow side to things. But to that point, the third component of the alliance is the dog, which is structure. So somebody like you who has a horse and has got the idea done may need a system in place and a spreadsheet and some structure to keep the thing going long term, to keep the idea and the goal moving, right?
Yes, my husband makes all my spreadsheets for me.
Okay, good. So you've already got two out of the three. He's a dragon. You're moving too fast for that. Yeah. But the truth is you're also a natural humanitarian. That's another component to your chart that we haven't even talked about. But that's the reason that you do what you do, because you're a natural humanitarian.
Interesting. So do you have any advice for how we can navigate this year successfully or like with greater ease and flow that you haven't already, like sort of more, you know, less related specifically to my chart, but just in general for our listeners?
So I think getting the toolkit is helpful because I want you to use one of your good directions, not the south. Also, Westlife Group, not the north. So that is number one. If you can put a salt cure or some type of mitigation in the south sector this year, that would be number two. And that's for everyone,
just to clarify. Like, yeah.
For everybody. Everybody can do that. Then you start to get a little bit more personal. So one of the things that I do for my clients is I make personal calendars for my clients so that we can look at every day and look at the energy of the day to determine what is the best activity to do that day. Is it a good day for wealth development? Is it a good day for relationship building? Is it a good day for traveling? Is it a day that is helpful for fame and recognition? Is it a good day for a health or medical procedure? Is it a bad day? Sometimes just knowing when the bad days are and avoiding doing important stuff on a bad day is also very helpful. So there are days on the calendar that are called do not use days. And so you're not going to sign contracts or have negotiations or do anything really important those days. That's how you take that to a new level of planning. It's really good for someone who second guesses their timing. It's good for someone who wants to do the right thing at the right time. It's good for somebody who wants to work smarter and not harder, because sometimes you just do things and if you don't do them on the right day, that's not so helpful. So calendars are very, very helpful. And I think keeping in mind that we just need to stay hydrated, rested, grounded this year. That's going to be huge.
And you mentioned that there might have been like specific Feng Shui adjustments for the horse, rat, ox, or rooster people to protect themselves is kind of how you worded it. Is that?
Oh, yeah. So there are two components. One is that in Feng Shui, we have something called the annual Four Nobles. And these four noble stars are very effective to use in the space to help address and mitigate a situation. So for example, there's a star in the southwest called the Moon Star, which is good for getting help from women, female help. That's just one example. And so when you know where that sector is, then you can use that sector. That's one component. The other, sort of a more Taoist perspective, is that you can wear a talisman. And it needs to be created by a Taoist priest or priestess. And they look at your chart and they make you this beautiful talisman, and it's hand drawn and it's got special blessings and it's consecrated, and it's designed to put in your auric field to help protect you in those years or those times when you may have a clash or you may have other harmful connections to the year that are unfavorable. And so that can also be very helpful. And in fact, I got one for my husband because he's born in the year of the rat. So he's going to have a talisman this year. And it's helpful if you've got a horse in your chart or a rooster or an ox, so that you can, and particularly if something is already not great, or you're concerned that it might get worse, right? Or you just want to avoid something altogether. So if you're already dealing with a health issue, you may want some extra protection. If you're dealing with a situation in your office or your career and you want things to go more smoothly, talisman can be helpful. But if you can't do that, go make friends with the goat person. Go find those goat people and borrow some of their luck and get their help. Go find that tiger person. Go find that dog person. Go find those people that can assist you with the things that you need. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
We have a couple of audience questions. How do you recommend choosing a Feng Shui specialist? And can this be done over video? And like, what would somebody be expecting to pay for something like that?
So these are all really good questions. The first thing that I want to say is that I'm a member of the International Feng Shui Guild, and the International Feng Shui Guild has a directory. So wherever you are in the world, because it's an international organization, you can go to the directory and see if there's somebody in your area. And it's sort of like choosing a doctor. So you may go to one doctor and they may have a perspective and they say, do this, do this, do this. And you might be like, oh, that kind of worked, but maybe that doctor isn't really for me. And then maybe you need to go to somebody else. But sometimes what you'll do is if you're like looking for a specialist, maybe you'll talk to some of the existing patients, or you'll see if you can get a complimentary consultation. This is sometimes what lawyers will do. Like they'll give you 15 minutes to tell them what you can tell them what their situation is, and they'll tell you how they would solve it or what they would do to help you. So I think that's a really good place to start. Go find the directory, seek somebody out, read their bio. Do they even have a bio? Sometimes there are people who don't put them up, but go to someone's website, find out what they're saying, go look at the reviews. I have one client who contacted me and she said, I just saw your site and she's like, you're speaking my language. You're my people. And we have been getting along together for over a decade. And it's only because I'm really clear about the kinds of things that I do well and the things that I want to do and the ways that I help people. And the more clear I am, the better the fit is with the client. So I think it's about asking the right questions. And actually, I do have an article on this on my website, by the way, how to find a practitioner. So the kinds of questions you can ask, what kind of perspective are they using? Are they using classical feng shui, which is my background? Are they using more Western or intuitive feng shui? What's their approach to solving a problem? What kind of resources do they use? How long have they been practicing? I've been doing this for over 15 years, and I can't even tell you how much money I've spent on master training. This is very different experience than someone who goes to a weekend workshop and hangs up a shingle and says, I'm a feng shui person.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
It's a very, very different experience.
And so you actually work with people worldwide, though. So this must be able to be done over video, which was part of her question. So can you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah. So it's interesting. During the pandemic, when everybody was in lockdown, my business grew because I can do work remotely. There are some things I cannot do remotely. Legitimately, if you are trying to find a piece of land to build your dream home, I'm not going to be able to do that with you remotely. But if you're in an existing house and you've got a floor plan and you have a situation, yeah, we can get on video, we can look at the space, we can take some actions together remotely. It certainly can be done. I want to say this about cost. If you think it costs $100, then that's what you're going to get. For somebody who has been practicing this for a long time and has real training, I'm going to tell you that you should expect to pay a few $100s at minimum. At minimum. You do get what you pay for. I just want to say that. It's real. There's a reason.
We have another question, which is, how do you determine what your sign is?
That's another good question. So on my website, there is a free BATSA calculator. So on my website, which is fsandmotion.com, there's a free stuff tab. And if you go to the free stuff tab, you can see the BATSA calculator. And you type in your information, your birthday information. It asks for your gender, which is assigned at time of birth, not necessarily the way that we experience our gender now, but this is the system. So you put your gender, it's assigned at time of birth if you know it, and it will spit out a chart. It's a very basic chart, and it also does not store your information. So if you go away from the site and you come back, it's not going to store it. You have to re-enter your information. And that's the simplest way. And it's based on the solar calendar. It's not based on the lunar calendar. So for people who are born in January, you might be thinking, oh, I'm born in the year of the horse. But actually, if you're born in January, then you're born in the previous year, which is the year of the snake. So the calculator is very accurate. Trust me, it's very good. If your birthday is February 3rd or 4th or 5th of any year, then you want to contact a professional to look at the exact time of your birth, because then we have to calculate it. We have to sort of double check to make sure you're not born right when the sun changes. And then we use location, where in the globe were you born, so that we can adjust for the solar time. So there's always a little bit of exceptions, right? But in general, the calculator is very accurate. And it's
Yeah,
free.
and I'm happy to link like any of these resources. Sometimes I get cut off by character count, so I do have to consider that. But at least in the private community, I can link as many of these resources as
Yeah.
you have for me.
I think these questions are great. I think the audience is engaged, and I like these questions because it tells me that you're thinking, oh, how do I know if this person is right for me? And how do I know if working with that person is going to be beneficial? And it's not just a Feng Shui practitioner question. You could ask these questions
Exactly.
of anybody, my doctor,
Yeah.
my lawyer, my new business partner. Go to their chart and find out if that person's got a clash with you, because you want to know.
Is there anything that you have not shared yet that is like an aspect of Chinese astrology or the fire horse year that you are like the most excited to share with people right now, like the most lit up about?
Well, I've never seen this energy before. I'm not, so this energy runs on a 60-year cycle. I'm not 60, thank God. I've not seen this energy before. So I'm really excited about what the potential can bring me. And this is how we do it in when we're looking at Batsa, this is the way that we do it really well. Not only do you look at what the energy of the year is, but what does it bring to me specifically? So for someone who's looking at their Batsa chart, the most important part is the top box in the day column. And it will be a yin or a yang element. Could be water, could be fire, could be metal, whatever it is. That element is really representative of you, of your personality. And then you compare that element to the energy of the year, and then you figure out what it's bringing you. This is a system called the 10 gods. This is how to do analysis and forecasting really well. Not fortune telling, but forecasting, so we get an idea of what's coming and how we can interact with it. I'm excited about that because for me, this fire element is bringing me focus. It's bringing me potentially a little bit of competition, but it's also bringing me the opportunity to collaborate. And knowing that means that I'm going to be looking forward to meeting other business owners, meeting other people who can be interested in the things that I'm doing to help them. That's exciting to me. And I think that just having a positive, eager, optimistic, hopeful outlook, just keeping that in mind can make the huge difference, a really significant difference in how your year plays out. If you heard someone say, oh, I have a horse. Oh my God, I've got a rat. It's a clash. It's all these terrible things. Please don't pick up on that. Please don't let that be the record that plays in your head. You can, because you have human luck, make a different decision. And if you choose for that to be a positive, exciting, developmental, expansive year,
Yes.
then it will be. You get to decide what your perspective is. Even when you think things are not going right for you, your new mantra should be, everything's always working out for me. 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 Because it will. You have made it through 100% of your life. You can make it through the rest of your life too. And I just encourage you to be positive and excited about it because it can be really phenomenal.
Thank you for that.
That's my soapbox.
No, I love that because I agree. Like I would not have survived my life if I just like succumbed to every circumstance that I happened to be in. Honoring of where we've been, where we're headed, like what it took to get us here, and really allowing ourselves to feel the things that we weren't able to feel in those moments, either because like we were in survival energy, maladaptive survival mechanisms, or we would have been flooded, like if it was just too much to feel at once, so we wouldn't have been able to manage it. So much of my work is around that. So absolutely, like I'm not suggesting that we like bypass the grief that comes when all of a sudden life turns upside down and things are falling apart and we have to find our way through that. Okay, is there one thing that you want everyone to remember about navigating the fire horse year?
I really want you to always choose what feels good to you in the moment. If you're depressed, you're not going to get a whiff of bliss. Maybe what feels good to you in the moment is revenge. If you're in revenge, you're not going to get a whiff of bliss. Maybe what feels good to you is just being frustrated. Please go to what feels better. Of course, it's great if you can think that you can always be in a higher emotional plane. I want you to be on a high flying disc all the time when you're really excited about life. Sometimes you can't be there. And so my recommendation and my piece of advice is always do what feels good to you. Because if you tap into your emotional core and you go to what feels good, everything will always work itself out.
I love that. Thank you so much. Jillian, thank you so much for being here. I have
Aren't you glad
I'm
we worked through the
really
tech
glad that we
issues?
worked through the tech issues. And I am grateful to our audience who hung in there with us. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our audience, and thank you for the questions that you submitted. As always, I am trusting you to take what resonates with you and leave the rest behind. Full extended versions of many of my episodes for Season 3 can be found in the Embodied Soul with Denise Elysa community app. If you'd like to join our recordings live and have the opportunity to send in questions in advance, that's the place to do it. If my podcast resonates with you, it would mean the world to me if you'd leave me a rating, review, positive comments, or likes, as those are so important on these platforms, and be sure to hit subscribe. If you'd like to dive deeper than what these platforms can provide, I invite you to explore my Embodied Soul with Denise Elysa community app, a virtual sanctuary where you can connect more deeply with yourself and others in a supportive environment while developing the tools to awaken your own self-healer. You are the medicine.